Happy Thursday right here in Mass listeners. This week's guest is Dale Shadbegian, entrepreneur, innovator, volunteer, marketer, and Muffin Man. Dale, aka the Muffin Man, created the award-winning Woolfie's Muffin. He grew Woolfies from a small seasonal bakery to a multi-location Cape Cod destination. Dale is also the CEO of Cape and Plymouth Business Media, the region's only business-focused media and marketing consulting company. Dale, welcome to the show. Although I shared a lot of exciting stuff about you and what you're up to, feel free to share more with our audience about everything that you do, because it's a lot of exciting things.
Thank you. Very happy to be here. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk. I'm happy to, what kind of things you think would be interesting?
Well, I'd say let's start with how you got started in marketing, because you've been doing it for so long. What really inspired you to take that route and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, sure. So, my story is that's pretty well rehearsed at this point is that I was the punk kid in Worcester who rode a skateboard. Didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. Kind of getting a paycheck and having a job and having a car was like in my world, in my group, that was, you were successful, right? Along the way, as I got a little bit older, I became exposed to people who had things. They had houses and they had nice cars and they went on vacation. Not that I didn't have some of those things, but they kind of opened my eyes beyond professionally what they were doing and what they were doing as people and with their work. And I ended up going to Fitchburg State College, and I started in psychology, and then I went to pharmacology, and then I went to business, and then I had a professor who turned me on to information systems. And at the time in 1999, not to date myself, people weren't really, it wasn't really a mainstream thing. And the program was really great. I had two students and two professors that really shaped my life. And the program introduced marketing as well as technology. So we learned how to, I was just talking about this with Kathy today, who's sitting across from me. As marketers, how much of your day do you spend trying to figure a tool out, like resetting passwords, checking the right box? You need a very technical mind to do that. And then when I took the marketing courses, I was like, this is really cool. This is what I want to do. So I stopped changing my mind. It took me 6 years to get a 4-year program. Like a light came on. I was just so laser focused. I was like, this is what I want to do. I fast forward, I graduated, I got a job in corporate America, working for a company called EMC, which was bought by Dell. And they were so hard on me. Like everything had to be perfect. And I worked for the marketing department. So I was building websites for the marketing department. And they were just so hard on me, like the language, the size of the font, move this 1 pixel. And in the end, they were a very successful company. And I was very fortunate to work with some really well-educated, really well-rounded people. And as you know, like whatever you do, when you become good at something, it becomes addictive and you want to pursue it. So while I love marketing, I wasn't happy with corporate America. People would start coming to me and saying, oh, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? And the next thing I know, like I was leaving corporate America, had a nice cushy job and helping small businesses. This is, mid 2000s-ish. And honestly, I never looked back. I just really, like I feel bad. You look at a small business and you've started your own business, what people put into it,
Right.
and then they can't get the word out. It as a marketer, I guess it's like a nurse, right? I would imagine a nurse is something similar. You see someone in need, you're able to fill that need, and there's like a calling. I know this is weird because it's marketing, but you kind of feel like this calling where you want to go and help people. And that's honestly, with all the frustrations that we deal with, that's what's kept me in marketing.
Yeah, especially because when a client will email you and say, this social media post prompted someone to fill out our contact form or sign up for our email list, or having that tangible results and good outcome that came from it is just what keeps you moving forward with, like you said, when things just get really frustrating and tough.
I think there's like a little drip of dopamine that gets like sent through your brain every time you see a client get a contact form or someone shares a post or they get a new client. Um, I love that about what we do.
Absolutely. And so with marketing, like what inspired you to start Cape and Plymouth Business Media and ultimately realize that you did want to work for yourself?
So that's a great question too. So I think, my first company was called 118 Group, and we focused mostly on web design. And I had, you know, my love and passion is SEO. I love getting people found in Google and Google Maps. That's kind of like my jam. I love the nerd in me loves the analytics side of it. Um, but I um kind of like I did it, but I didn't like full force do it.
Mm,
Um, it was just sort of organic, and I had a lot of smaller clients, which is fine. But then I heard about Cape and Plymouth Business Media when it came for sale. This company had been longer established. They had bigger clients, they had a magazine and they had a network of 10,000 people that were already engaged, banks and insurance companies. And I kind of saw it as a shortcut for me professionally to kind of get to that next league of companies that needed marketing. So while I still love the
right.
small business, it was really a shortcut, for lack of a better example, to get in front of the bigger players in our community. Um, I had always wanted to grow my company, but this company was really an opportunity, had a great reputation. It gave me an avenue to attract new staff, new skills that I didn't have or couldn't would have taken me a lot longer to obtain on the
Right.
path that I was going, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that is really interesting because I actually didn't know that you acquired Cape and Plymouth Business Media. So what was that like? Like how did you find it? How did you know that it was the right fit financially and for your goals? Just like what really made you want to take that leap?
That's a great question. So I had been really head deep. So in my web company, I had replaced myself in everything except the technical person, which is it's a heart attack job. It's your whole day is broken, 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 broken.
Yeah.
And actually today I'm dealing with some of that.
Everything's
But
on fire.
to replace me in that position was a very expensive position, and the company couldn't afford it. And it wasn't full time. It's like 20 hours a week. You were fixing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So acquiring Cape and so I had always wanted to go more into marketing. I was like, I think I'm done with the technical stuff. I started to dry up a little bit in my terms of my skill set. My programming started to get a little soft. I wasn't keeping up with it. I was more mayoring, as I call it, in the community, which I really enjoyed. And of course, I enjoyed the SEO piece of it. And I knew that I needed to acquire or beef up our marketing if I wanted to get out of there and have the money to backfill that need, which eventually happened. So
Mm,
I was cruising around looking for marketing companies for sale, and I found Cape and Plymouth on a business broker website like BizBroker or something like that. And I knew immediately what it was. And I was a little salty because I always wanted to win 40 under 40. And the reality is I wasn't good enough. Like, I'll be honest with you, the folks that win those awards, like, blow me out of the water in terms of what they're doing for our community. Um, so I bought the company, right? So I can't win the award, I'll buy the company. At least I can go up at the beginning and say hello to everyone. And that's kind of the joke, but so I found it online. I met with the owner. I didn't have the money. I was like, look, I love this company. I want to be here. I don't have the money. What can we do? And after we sat a little bit with Bob, the company had some gaps that I really filled very well. And it had some gaps that filled in my old company very well. So my old business partner and I, we decided we'd kind of split. I'd come over here and we kept ties and whatnot. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And Bob was very generous to me. He worked, I think in the end, we felt like this was a really good fit. He was very generous to me. He worked out a nice payment schedule where I was able to pay the business off, and which was especially helpful because I bought the business 3 or 4 weeks before our lockdown in 2020.
Wow, so it was that soon. I honestly felt like this is just I'm amazed because I honestly thought you had this company for so long. So I think it's
No,
especially I think that just goes to show what you've done ultimately. It's a compliment to you with the fact that what you've been able to do with it just shows how much you've put into it.
appreciate that. I mean, I'm not embarrassed to say through most of my beginnings here at the company, I didn't take a paycheck. Through
Mm,
COVID, we didn't raise our prices. I offered anything that a client wanted, I did, and I did for free. We really strapped down. I would do Zoom, clients that were struggling, I'd do Zoom with them and put it on a social. And we really put a lot of effort into trying to help people. And I appreciate the compliment of, our success, but I think the only success I can really claim to is working with Bob and at the time Laurel to identify our gaps. Like, we had gaps in the company of skills that if we had them, we could serve the business community better. We identified them and we got really lucky. We hired two, now three great people. Kara one, Kathy sitting right across from me. She's listening, so I'm definitely going to plug her. And Gabby recently. I can't do everything myself.
right.
These people were like perfect fits to the company, and they love what they do, and they've really kind of dug in and helped us round out the company.
I love that. And also with this, when you acquired Cape and Plymouth Business Media, what was the process like of retaining the clients that were there before? Did you struggle with them perhaps not trusting you right away because they're like, who's this guy? Or but because perhaps Bob was kind of still integrated in the process, it helped with that transition. Did you find any difficulty with that?
Yes. So the first few weeks I took over, it was like a lot of team meetings. How are we going to work together? How are we going to, we knew we were going to launch sort of a digital presence, meaning offering we're a la carte type marketing services to clients. What does that look like? How will we transition there? In the meantime, COVID was creeping up on us. And, um, when we kind of got our game plan down, we were totally into COVID and lockdown at that point. So I was trying to establish new relationships with people over Zoom. And I mean,
Mm,
these are bigger clients. They have, they're like banks, and they have very specific needs. They're very cautious about their reputation. Not that anyone shouldn't be,
right.
but they've got legal things they need to worry about and how are they represented. And that was a very big challenge for me. It was a new type of client. We were in lockdown, no one knew what was going on, and I'm trying to do all this over Zoom. Quite honestly, there were people that I really didn't meet for many, 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 many months. And I just started to meet them in person. And on the flip side, they're going through the same thing, trying to stay in business, and they don't necessarily want to deal with me. Like, I'm a guy they sent an ad to once a month, right? That was our relationship at the time.
Mhm.
It was really hard to kind of break through that. And I give a lot of credit to Kara and Kathy. I'd say in the last year, we've tried to cut through where someone you send an ad to or press release to. We've built this community, we've got these events, we've got opportunities where you can get involved. It took like probably 2 years to cut through that. And I struggled with it. It's definitely not my strong suit.
Yeah.
Luckily we have people who that is their strong suit.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, one thing that has definitely set you apart with the Cape being such a small, close-knit community. The fact that you're coming in and hosting all these consistent events to business leaders and individuals throughout the area. It's
Mhm.
been a way to really bring people together, especially now as they're starting to crave that in-person interaction again and wanting to go and do more things. And you've really stepped up to the plate with being able to provide that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Kara's also from Plymouth. Most of our team had been from Cape, Plymouth, and even up into Boston. We have a lot of interest from Boston companies. They probably either have an office here or they have summer homes, Plymouth down through Cape.
Mm,
Um, Having a presence physically in Plymouth was a big concern of mine. I'm in Dennisport, I'm a Cape guy, right? Even I'm wearing the hat today. Um, it's hard. We're so connected. We're like so close to being connected, even up through the South Shore, but like we have enough in common, I think, where it makes sense to do it. But geographically, there's enough distance where it's not easy, right?
right.
Um, and the events, I think we've tried to make the events really about community, not so much about it's about people getting, recognizing people, right? But I think it's for me, the events and the opportunities we're giving, when you see the honorees at the events, they're sharing like such an amazing experience together. I feel like we've been able to kind of take this to the next level. It's not, you're not just sponsoring and getting your name in front of 100 people. Like you're touching these people's lives. Like they remember that. Like people come up to me like, oh, I won it 8 years ago, and they remember everything about the day. And I think like, wow, that's just so amazing. I just
Yeah.
gives me a good feeling.
Oh, yeah. I love that. And so now shifting gears a little bit, what I mentioned in your bio is that you also own Woolfies on the Cape. So let's hear more
Yes.
about that, what inspired you to start it, and how you've been
Mhm.
able to grow it, like we shared earlier, through multiple locations.
Yeah. So I had always wanted to live on Cape Cod. And at the time I was consulting to businesses. So I would come in, physically work in the company for a certain amount of time. And then I would make recommendations on technology and marketing, and I would help them implement it. And then at a certain point, I'd move on. So I get a call, there's this bakery for sale, and the owner's like, have got some health issues and they've tried to sell it and it's struggling. And oh, by the way, you can walk to the beach. And I was like, hello. So um, I went down, I checked it out. I remember I was living in Upton at the time, which is near Hopkinton, Framingham.
Hmm.
So the person I was supposed to meet wasn't there. So I decided to drive to the beach. And I remember walking onto the beach and being like, I want to die here. Like I literally said that to myself. So I'm already set up that I am so totally enamored with this business, right? So I go in and I meet with her. We work out an agreement and I start working with her. I'm physically up at 2 a.m. working with her. And she was hilarious. She would start taking, I don't know, can I say this? We'd take a couple shots in the morning. She was Italian. We'd drink some limoncello at like 2 a.m. And she was super old school. Just we had so much fun. And I think maybe like the third day into it, she's like, you should buy this place. You should be here. And I was like, oh man, I don't know about that. So I went and I talked to my kids and they're like 8, 10, like move to the beach and live in a bakery. Oh, that was the other thing. You live in the bakery while you're running it.
Oh
So
my
they were
goodness.
totally enamored by it. My mom, my dad, my brother, like we were all like, this is super cool. And I can still do the marketing stuff, right? Because a lot of it's from home.
Yep.
Um, so I buy the business, we all move in, and one of the staff members come to me and they're like, have you ever tried our food? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, I think we can improve it. And I was like, yeah, maybe we could. So we had a meeting with our vendors and I said, I want to buy the best of everything. Best butter, best shortening, best chocolate, best. And we played around for uh another staff member and myself who ended up becoming a business partner at one point. We worked on this together, just trying different, I just kept making different muffins and trying different things until I made them as big as humanly possible and as many blueberries as they could possibly hold until they don't bake anymore. And I gave them to someone and they're like, this is dynamite. And then we kind of perfected along the way. And the key for that business is everything's fresh, fresh, fresh. Like you can come and get a
Right.
hot, bursting blueberry muffin, and it's extremely difficult to do. It's hard to manage, but we have a pretty good system down, and that's how we got to that point. Now I'm not there really. I go there because I like it. My kids are
Yeah.
there, my mom's there, but we've got staff in place to kind of do most of the work now, so I don't really need to be there. But I got to be honest with you, I love it there.
I love that. And that's going to lead me into the question that relates to that, which is how you just balance the two. And it sounds like with Woolfies, you've been able to build up that staff who can support it and not necessarily require you to be on hand all the time. But how do you just juggle both businesses without feeling like you're taking away from one to give more to the other, if that makes sense?
That's a great question. I think at some level, you're always taking away from something, right?
Mm,
If even if you have a job, a family, and a hobby, something's not, you're missing something at some point, right? So when you have two businesses or multiple locations, you have the same thing. What I learned is trusting people, right? So nobody's ever going to do it the way I'm going to do it. They're not going to do it as good as I perceive myself as doing it. And the reality is I make mistakes too. And I probably have staff there that are way better than me at certain things. So I think, my role in the company now is to just be visible, to promote it, to help market it. We have systems and processes for everything from the time you come in the door to flip on the first light switch until we leave. There's a checklist, and they
mm,
physically have to check it off. That's kind of allowed me to kind of take a step back. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but instead of thinking about owning a business, I think about giving people opportunity, right? So we have a production manager, Kismet. She is amazing, right? So I don't think of her as managing the production and making the business money. I think of it as I want to put her in a position where she can be emotionally and financially successful and have something and give her that ownership to take it on so that I don't have to be there like nagging it. And for
right.
me, that shift in thinking, that was a huge eye opener for me. And that's really what allowed me to kind of take the step back. And to be honest with you, I used to hide the two. Like if I was Muffin Man, you didn't know I did marketing and vice versa. I was very nervous. I didn't want that perception that I was always busy running around. And the reality is, as entrepreneurs, I don't say I'm busy. I say I stay busy. I fill my time with
Yeah.
things. So I think the combination of the two, you feel like you're doing a good job and you still kind of spread your time around evenly, if that makes sense. I know that was a long answer, but
No, it was really great. And especially, I think what you said about worrying about how talking about doing one and not wanting people to know that you do the other and kind of giving that perception, I think is really relatable. And it reminds me of something that a conversation I had with one of my clients where we built like a really close relationship, and she was always like, it felt like she was off of work more than she was on work. And so I was like, how do you do this? How do you have such a huge successful business, but it requires such little of your time? And I had asked her that because we were talking about taking time off, and I was like, I don't want to work Fridays, especially here in Massachusetts in the summer where everyone takes a summer Friday. I don't want to be tied to my computer. But I said to her, I'm worried about what clients will think of me if I'm not around for them. And what she said to me just totally blew my mind. And now I always think of it is people don't care when you work, they just care if you do what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. And I was like, wow, what a crazy perspective. But it's like when you think of that with both of your businesses, it's like as long as you get the job done, that's all that people really care about.
I would agree to that. And I think the big thing is you have to empower people to make choices and not be upset if they make the wrong choice.
Right.
You have to make time and work on things and improve things. And two other quick tips. I canceled most of my TV subscriptions. Um, I work out a lot. I am on social media the entire time I'm at the gym, like on the treadmill. I'm sharing stories, replying to comments. Um, I time box. So I've got this little sheet of paper and I time box out my day, make sure I get all my most important things done. And then if I'm in the car for an hour, I touch base with friends and family. Like I've really
Mm,
kind of figured out how to be really efficient about it. And yeah, I mean it's not easy, but it's something that I think you need to work on if you want to be as productive as you can be.
absolutely. And with being on the Cape, what would you say your advice is for businesses dealing with the seasonality of it, whether they're on the Cape and the islands, or even if they're a ski resort and really having their busiest time during the winter? What do you recommend to businesses for not just staying afloat during that time, but also just thriving and being able to continue building that momentum when things might not be as busy?
That's a really tough question. So one of our locations at Woolfie's is a seasonal location. Um, we're one of the biggest buyers from our supplier and all of Cape, but we're only open for 8 weeks out of the year. So we're buying as much in 8 weeks as some places are buying in an entire year. Um,
Wow.
it's so busy, the police come and shut the road down and tell people you can't come down, you can't go there, you need to leave and come back later. Um, and that's amazing, right? You get to Columbus Day or Labor Day and it's like PTSD. It's like everyone's gone. You got a ton of cash. You start spending money, right? You start doing things. And then in May, you're poor. Like, I don't even have enough money to make my first order or pay payroll, right? So
Yeah.
my advice is you need to take that money at the end of the year and invest it somehow where it can make some money for you and you're not going to blow it. In terms of marketing, so you want to keep that money and you need to balance taxes, right? Because you got a ton of money and then tax time comes, right? So you got to balance all of those things. You need a really good accountant. You have to stay engaged with your audience, right? So around the holidays, think of ways that you can engage with your customers. Think of merchandise or something they can buy around Christmas. Touch base with them, keep in touch with them. But I think the biggest thing for me was staffing, right? We
Mm.
couldn't keep staff because we'd have these amazing culinary graduates who love working, but they're like, I need a job that works more than 12 weeks a year. And,
Right.
I don't want to flip back and forth between ski country and Florida and here. Like, so trying to think about, can you expand and can you expand to an area that's more year round, right? Because if you look hard enough on Cape, there will be year round locations. And then there's always an influx of summer workers, right? But if you keep a core team, you can bounce them back and forth
Mm.
between the two. Um, Otherwise, Cape and Plymouth, like marketing, we're pretty steady year round. In fact, in the summertime, we're probably a lot slower than in the winter. So
Yeah.
think about, how you can that seasonal staff, what can they do for you in your business? Maybe they can paint or help clean up or work on your marketing campaign or do photos. Like there's something that you got to do to keep them busy. You can't always have this revolving door. That literally probably almost put me out of business several times. And that's why we went
Mm.
to the second location.
Yeah, that's great advice. And it sounds like from what you've shared that Cape and Plymouth Business and Wolfie's have really complemented each other nicely with the fact that Wolfie's is really busy in the summer while Cape and Plymouth Business is a little bit on the
Exactly.
slower end and vice versa.
Exactly. In fact, in marketing, when I started out, I would get like one email a week. And in the summertime, I wouldn't even hear from anybody. I had, SEO is autopilot. You do the same thing kind of every month. So I'd get
Mhm.
it done, but no one needed me. And then at a certain point, both businesses grew to where they both needed me year round. And that's when I had to make my changes.
Absolutely. And because you're so multi-passionate, do you see yourself buying or starting a third business in the future?
I have a retirement plan. You want to
Oh,
hear my
let's hear it if
retirement
you're open
business?
to sharing.
Um, so um I'm in the process of getting my pilot certificate.
Oh,
And
that's exciting.
my dream is I want to fly around. I want to start a company flying things around the Caribbean, like medical supplies, parts, things like that. It's just this sort of dumb dream that I have. But I think I'm 47 right now. I was also telling Kathy today, I used to be so fixed on retiring, and now I want to focus on having a job that I love and not worry about retiring.
Yeah.
Um, I'm grooming people to kind of take over at some point, and then when I retire, that will be my third business. But I don't know if I'll do all three at the same time. I think I'm done right now.
I was gonna say, how could you possibly add another thing onto your plate?
I think it's like a glass of water, right? So right now my glass is pretty full. If I wanted
Hmm.
to open a new business, I'd have to give more responsibility to someone else. I have ideas on how I would do that. I think I could do it. It's just for me, I'm having fun what I'm doing right now, and I don't see any changes.
Yeah, which is so important, really, like you said, is to just enjoy it and have fun.
Right. I also have
And
another thing now where clients, so there's a secret that I'm fun to go on vacation with. So our clients are paying me or providing, transportation and hotels. Like if they have a conference, they're like, "Hey, Dale, Dale's fun. Let's take him to this conference." And like so I get to go away for a few days. I'm working while I'm there, but I'm doing my regular work, but I'm like working for the client while I'm there. I'm taking video, walking around show floors, making connections. And so
Mhm.
I'm kind of also like doing vacation stuff at the same time. And to be honest with you, that's so much fun right now. Like I don't know that I would want to do anything else.
Yeah, which is it's a great way to have a double whammy, getting work done, but also being able to get that time in for traveling and vacation.
You get a lot of great FaceTime with your clients too.
Absolutely.
You get some good dirt on them also, if you can take them out enough.
And it's you're like, wow, so this is what you're like outside of a work setting.
Exactly, exactly.
And speaking of vacation, before Dale and I started recording this, before we hit the record button, we were talking about traveling. And while we were emailing back and forth, we were talking about traveling. And Dale had mentioned that after years of hustling, he's finally taking the time to travel. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Did you hit a period of like severe burnout that
Yes.
perhaps inspired you to do that? Let's hear more about it.
Yeah, I would say last summer, um, I was ready to sell everything and just start over. Um, I think I took one vacation in like 11 years. Um, Working probably 60, 70 hours a week, not letting go. Um, just sort of, I'll do it myself kind of mentality. And then I don't know, I just woke up one day and I said, heck with this. It just this light bulb came on and said, you got to let go.
Hmm.
Um, I just have always had this fear like I'm gonna disappoint somebody, right? And it's like, well, I disappoint people. So if someone else does it, it's no different. You say sorry, you put things in place so it doesn't happen again. And like I took a couple trips that I didn't have money for, I didn't have time for, and I came back so refreshed, whole new perspective. And to be honest with you, things blossomed after that point. Um, I think a lot of us forget about taking care of ourselves. Um, so for me, I schedule my gym time. I have to go, I have to turn my phone off and listen to music. And I play around on social media like I mentioned before, but I have to do that. If
Yeah.
I don't, I'm not giving, if I don't take care of myself, and you said you had someone else who they were afraid of what clients would think if they were on vacation or whatever.
Yeah,
If you're not taking care of yourself, you're not giving your clients the best version of yourself. And that's just the
absolutely.
bottom line. No one expects you to be a slave driver. And like you said, they expect the work to get done. If you have a clear mind and you're positive and you've got some sun on your skin, like you're going to just be so much more productive. And I think that's really overlooked.
I love that. And I think especially for our industry, it's really easy to hit burnout. And it sounds like for you, it happened in the midst of the pandemic, which was the same for me, where it
Mhm.
was for the first 5 years. I just worked nonstop because truthfully, I had to. I don't think that we'd get to our bit where we are in our businesses today if we didn't work as much as or as hard as we
Agreed.
did. So it
Agreed.
was necessary. But last year, ironically, it was the night before I was going on a trip to Yarmouth for a week. I was up till 3 a.m. finishing client work so
Oh,
that way I could be off for the week and not do anything. And it was after weeks of being up till at least 10 or 11 o'clock at night to get stuff done. So I had the same thing as you. A light bulb went off and I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not going to be working all this time just to get a few days off for a vacation. And so I went up, like, just unplugged for 2 weeks, came back, and just like you, it was like I was totally different and had a whole new perspective and just pick something up that I had never done before. And I think it's really important for business owners to acknowledge that and be able to be mindful of when you're getting to that point where you might be facing burnout. and be able to put a plan in place to prevent that from happening and make a change.
Yeah, I agree. I love that story. And did you feel so when I go on I went on a family vacation, right? This is another thing that I've personally done. I went on a family vacation to the Caribbean, and my kids would be sleeping in the morning. So I'd wake up at 5, I'd watch the sunrise with my coffee, and I'd work from like 6 till 10, 10:30, 11. I got a whole day's work done. And people are like, why are you working on vacation? I actually answered the phone when I was on a fishing trip with them. I was like, I'm having a blast, man. I don't mind like taking a call once in a while. I'm not the kind of guy that shuts off completely. I
Mm,
was gone for a week. Nobody knew it. I got all my work done and I had an amazing time. So I think you can kind of balance, like, you have to find, it's like an exercise regimen. You have to find out what works for you, what time of day
yeah.
works for you, what exercise works for you, what you eat works for you. Not everyone has the same diet. Don't be afraid to explore. Don't be afraid that you answer a phone call on a vacation. Like, try it. If it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel good. Like for me, I thought it was fun. It's like, you know, I had my buddy Jared from Cape Cod Heat Pumps. Hey, what are you doing? I was like, actually, I'm fishing right now. What are you doing? He's like, why are you answering the phone? I said, I don't know. I just want to brag to someone that I'm fishing. But I think it's okay to explore that a little bit and not. The biggest thing for me was I felt like I wasn't getting what I wanted. And I went on a vacation saying, I'm going to have a vacation and I'm still going to keep contact. I came out of it like, oh, this was amazing. And that's the way I roll now.
I love that. And I also love too with our industry that I say this all the time. I feel like with marketing, you can get so much done in advance compared to other careers where you might not necessarily be able to physically do the work early, quote unquote, but like with marketing and other industries, you can prep things and just bulk up on work in the weeks leading up to taking time off or going on a vacation. And then that way it's like you can either take that week off fully or do exactly what you did, just work in a pace that feels good to you.
Right. And I think communication is a big part of it. We touch base with our clients at the beginning of every month, say, here's kind of what we've been doing. Here's what we still need. And by the way, I'm taking this time off at this time, setting it up in advance so that you're able to meet their needs, even though there might be a gap in your service that you're providing to them. And then, of course, I'm very lucky enough now. We've got a decent sized team. I can put someone else in charge to kind of keep an eye on things if there's an emergency that comes up. But I think the communication is huge. And not be afraid that you're taking time off, right? Be upfront
Yes.
and get in front of it.
I love that you mentioned that, the communication. I did this on October 1st. I put in my email signature about the holidays coming up and here's when I'll be off for the holidays. And I was like, you have 3 months notice because I'm giving you this. And so
That's
many
great.
people pointed that out. They were like, wow, that was like a good idea to be so open and like in advance with what you're taking off. And I felt the same way about you. I just felt like being communicative about it and just giving people a heads up really goes a long way and helps to build more respect for you, those people will have.
Absolutely. I mean, the reality is people have trusted us with their time and their money. And we need to respect that, right? And as professionals, I think it's just a little thing that we can do. I'm very grateful for every client that works with us. This is like a little thing that we can do to make their life easier.
Absolutely. Now, Dale, I'd love to shift gears a little bit and ask you what your favorite local businesses are to support on the Cape.
Um, that's a great question, and
It must be hard for
I'm
you to
not
pick
gonna
just a few.
I'm not gonna answer it specifically. So where I shop and where I spend my money is based on a couple things. I always support our clients, number one. Too many to name, and I don't want to name any because I'll forget one. Um, so I so I consciously look at our client list and uh, promote and use purchase from them whenever I can. My second buying choice is I have underdog businesses that I love that I visit, right? They're 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 not marketing with us, or they're not out in the community. They're just like grinding. They were me 5 years ago. They're just grinding. I make sure I go there as often as I can to support them. And then the third tier of businesses are, there are just people that are always out there in the community. They might already be successful, but they're giving back so much. I try and go, I try and patronize those companies as well as much as possible.
I love that. You're like,
And
I see
I do
you.
get, I do get to Plymouth a lot too, and up the South
Mhm.
Shore, as often as I can. Also because, we are Cape and Plymouth, but I feel like,
Mhm.
sometimes if I want to go out, I'll say, hey, let's go to Plymouth tonight and we'll go to XYZ, for dinner or get drinks or whatever. So I really
Mhm.
try and spread it around.
Yeah. And I love that approach that you take with supporting businesses and the fact that you're like, I see you, I know how hard you're working, I understand what you're doing for our community, and now I want to reward you for that with my business and the people that I send your way.
Right, exactly.
Amazing. Dale, this has been such an awesome episode. I genuinely have loved learning about your experience and all of the amazing things that you've done throughout your several careers and businesses. And so now I'd love if you could share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect further.
So it's Dale Shadbegian. I'm on Facebook. Feel free to connect with me. I'm not, I feel like Facebook is more than just intimate friends. If you want to connect there, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Shabij with 3 E's, Instagram, and that's it. You can also email me, dale@capeplymouthbusiness.com.
Perfect. And I will link all of those in the show notes in case our listeners missed them. They can click through and connect with you from there. But Dale, thank you so much again for being a guest on today's show.
Awesome. This is a lot of fun. Thank you.